But there is a source right now out there that's reporting that Cade McNamara is done at Michigan. Had you heard that? Is there a substance to that you know of?
I don't know. I can't substantiate that. I know that people that people that I know that have some inside information, who know players, who know a lot of players, had said that that this was inevitable a few weeks ago.
Yeah. And it doesn't surprise me. I mean, again, whether that source is accurate or not, it might just be some guy. I don't know this, but you always look at somebody's Twitter, following, are they verified, all this stuff. And I couldn't really tell if this guy was legitimate who tweeted this out, but that wouldn't be a bad way, Mark. It's kind of like that Siriat guy that was getting popular in 2020 for predicting that the Big Ten would be resuming its season. Like, he kind of had I want to say a 50-50 chance of being right. But it's like, for somebody who's trying to gain notoriety on Twitter, you might as well put something out there that you think is likely. And if it happens, then everybody praises you. And I think that could be what's happening here. Maybe this guy's got actual sources, but an individual sent that to me, and of course the first thought is, well, Iowa could go after him. And by the way, for the record, I do think that Iowa will probably go after somebody in the portal. I can't guarantee that based on things I've heard, but I don't. Again, don't. That's not a stick it in the ground prediction at this point. But I mean, it doesn't. I don't think you need much guesswork to. Well, I don't think it's guesswork to assume that Spencer Petras is probably not coming back next year. And I mean, who else? They obviously don't have any confidence in Alex Padilla, so I wouldn't be surprised if he leaves. And maybe he's content being a backup. But if he's content being a backup, then is he going to be? Is he the guy next year? Now, I also acknowledge the fact, Mark, that the current Iowa staff, as it's currently constructed, does not have the ability to evaluate quarterbacks appropriately or accurately. So there's always a chance they make a decision that's horrendous. I hate to say that, but that's just the reality of where we're at with Iowa's evaluators, if you will. But with that being said, I still think there's a decent chance Iowa actually swallows some pride and goes to the portal next year. And, because even, if Petras leaves, which I think he will, if Padilla leaves, which I think he probably will, I'm less confident in that, then you're down to Joey Labus, who does the staff have any confidence in him? Carson May, who's a true freshman this year, and Marco Lainez, who will be a true freshman next year. And just as uncomfortable as Kirk is going to the portal, especially at quarterback, he's probably even less comfortable going to a first or second year guy. So maybe Labus ends up that'd be his third year. Maybe he ends up being the quarterback in 2023. And the only reason I'm bringing this discussion up is because of the report about Cade McNamara. But I actually believe, Mark, that Cade may be out of Iowa's league, because I think there's going to be a lot of programs that are after him. Now, I'm not saying if you listen to my channel, you listen to this show back in January, Mark, we were advocating for Iowa to go after a bunch of quarterbacks, because what's the harm in going after guys? If they turn you down, okay, at least we tried. So I'm not saying that if Cade enters the portal when that time comes, I know the portal window's not even open right now, but when it is, Iowa should still pursue him. I'm just saying, as far as prediction about whether he'd come to Iowa, I doubt he would, Mark. Don't you think there's been a lot of programs that would be going after him? A lot?
So when you say that Iowa's not in his league in regards to being a program, you're stating that more from Cade McNamara's likely evaluation of what they do with their offense and what they do with their quarterbacks, and lack of development and lack of production, all of that, not the status of the program.
No, but it's not going to hurt. It's not going to help if Iowa goes 5-7. That's not going to help the status of the program as a whole, regardless of what the defense and special teams unit is doing. At least last year, you had a putrid offense, but you could still fall back on, we're elite at two units, and we won 10 games. It's harder to pump up those two elite units if you end up losing 7 games. So I'm not saying that will happen. Maybe Iowa will climb its way to 7-5. But my point is, people have always argued to me, Mark, well, why would any portal quarterback want to come here? And I understand that line of reasoning. that's never been valid to the point that I've tried to make and the point you've tried to make, which is Iowa needs to try. Okay. But I do think once they try, there are going to be quarterbacks. It is a fact that there are quarterbacks who will say, why would I want to play for that offense? It doesn't showcase my skills. Just like Charlie Jones realized, why would I want to play for that offense? My last year in college, let me go play for an offense that's going to actually help my draft stock. Can you imagine Charlie Jones if he was at Iowa right now? I mean, would he be helping the Iowa offense? Yeah. But would he be on anybody's draft board right now? I certainly don't think he would be remotely close to draft boards, any draft boards. And I don't know how high he is on draft boards as it currently stands, but I guarantee you he's going to have a shot, and he's probably going to be first team All Big Ten. Mark, would you agree with that? That Charlie Jones will likely be first team All Big Ten on offense?
Yeah, he's having that kind of season. Now back to the ability of this program to attract a decent quarterback in the transfer portal. Yes, that would be the wise, discerning assessment of the Iowa offense in the program by any quarterback out there that's available in comparison to all these other offenses that they could possibly, take part in. However, we do see head coaches who have yet to be successful go out and lure in top level recruiting classes. So I think Iowa could leverage, if it wants to be humble about the situation and take a reset, meaning as you and everybody check out Corey's video that was posted yesterday on the state of the Iowa offense and what changes need to be made. But if Iowa reset the offense, meaning the personnel, the coaching, the personnel on the coaching staff, and showed a quarterback, we're willing to make these changes and see what we've done in these other areas of the team. We can do this in an offense, and you can be a building block. You can be the center of all of this.
Yeah, and I would defer back to what Michael Penix is doing at Washington, what Adrian Martinez is doing at Kansas State. Those are two examples of guys who, I mean, were they top 5 portal quarterbacks during this last cycle? Probably not. Penix was coming off. Didn't he have 2 knee injuries, I believe, before he headed to Washington?
One for sure.
I think he was coming off 2 because he got hurt last year, correct?
Yes.
Then he was coming off 2 because I remember he was hurt. That Iowa game last year was his first game back because I remember talking about that knee injury.
Okay.
And he kind of played a little bit tentative in that first game against the Hawks. But my point is, boy, he's tearing things up at Washington. And I've had people interact with me on Twitter today that made excuses for Adrian Martinez. Why don't we just give the guy props? He's going to Kansas. Right now he's playing great football at Kansas State. And they want to say, well, his offensive line and blah, blah, blah. Give the guy props. And he's running for how many yards a game is he getting right now as a quarterback? It's insane what he's doing. And again, there were reports out there from credible sources that said that's the one guy Iowa did contact in the portal. But there's got to be more of an effort made in 2023. Now, I think the more relevant question, what you just brought up, Mark, is how does the narrative around the Iowa offense change with a change in as far as the offensive staff is concerned? So that brings up the question, will Brian Ferentz be the offensive coordinator in 2023? Mark, if you had to guess, I know you're not, covering the program intently, but if you had to guess at this point, will Brian Ferentz be the OC in 2023?
Well, he shouldn't be. If this was any other situation across the country, then we would have a 90-some% certainty that he would not be.
Well, he shouldn't even be in week 7. I mean, he should be really. He should have been. I mean, I hate to say that. Again, nothing against the Ferentz family, but I mean, heck, Rutgers fired their OC. New Mexico just fired their OC. Indiana just fired their O-line coach and run game coordinator.
Yep.
Nebraska fired their head coach. Wisconsin fired their head coach. So unless we're smarter than all of those schools, I'd like to think that the precedent has been set. If you're this bad, and all those, by the way, all those teams have better offenses than Iowa's by the numbers.
I'm going to say no, that he won't be the offensive coordinator in 2023, but I'm trying to devise and envision the set of circumstances that allow for a graceful fall.
Yeah, for the record, I don't believe he will be either. So all the fans who are Kirk is never going to fire his son. That's fine. I'm just telling you right now, and I agree with you that we can go a couple different directions as far as how will this transpire. I do not believe Brian will be the offensive coordinator in 2023. Now, which is the more feasible avenue to that happening? Is it he is demoted? They fired George Barnett along that offensive line. I hope not. I know people are after Barnett right now, but this is his second year in the program. This is his second year. I think that would be unfair to George Barnett, and he would end up being the scapegoat, similar to maybe how Chris Doyle was a scapegoat for some of the issues within that program. And I hope that's not the move that's made. But that's a possibility that Brian's demoted and made the offensive line coach, and George Barnett goes bye-bye. I think another option is that Brian does find a way to a job in the NFL. That's probably the ideal scenario because it doesn't look like he's being demoted or getting fired. He's just taking a different job in pro football. And then, of course, probably the least likely scenario is that Gary Barta just says enough is enough. You're fired. I suppose that could happen. Kirk doesn't so I know the understanding is that Kirk is the most powerful person in that program, and you and I both agree, Mark, that that's the case. But technically, I know people don't like talking about this. Technically, the rules on nepotism stipulate that Brian is his supervisor is actually Gary Barta. So Gary Barta technically has the authority to say, "Don't care what you have to say, Kirk. Brian, you're fired." I'm not saying it's like going to be like a Celebrity Apprentice type thing with Donald Trump, but I'm just saying he has the authority to say you're fired.
So are you telling me that there are some members of the coaching staff that report directly to Kirk, and therefore he is able to fire them, and others do not?
It's Brian, because of the rules on
staff.
Yes, because of the rules on nepotism, Brian reports to Gary. That's what has been stated.
One. Okay,
correct.
All right,
that's what's been stated. Now, I'm sure Gary still has authority. If there's somebody in the program, like say Iowa had a tight ends coach that was doing something inappropriate, Gary would still have if Kirk for some reason refused to do something, Gary could still step in. But I'm just saying, on a technicality basis, Gary is technically Brian's supervisor. So he's ultimately the one that has to make that decision. And he's also the one who I think the more ideal scenario is that you just go to Kirk and you say, "Look, Kirk, we love you. All right. We are invested in you, but you have to do something here. I don't want to have to fire him, but you have to either find him a job, you have to demote him, you have to do something. He cannot be this program's offensive coordinator moving forward." Now, I don't know that he has the nerve. Is that the right word to do that? To put it lightly, the nerve to do that. But that's what needs to be done. I mean, right? I mean, somebody's got to step up to the plate here.
I hope he's got the nerve to get it done and to do that, because that's his job.
Yeah, well,
he runs the athletic department, and this is the most important, lucrative, revenue generating sport that he's in charge of. And there is this huge dichotomy of strengths and weaknesses that have been going on for years. And here is the person that's responsible for coordination of the weakest unit in the country that's impacting all these people. Basically, the inability and lack of production is affecting 100 people and beyond. This is what he was hired to do. How much money, not that it should matter, but my goodness, you're a boss. You're running an athletic department. You should be able to have that conversation.
I like the fact that Hawkeye Howard, who's one of our loyal listeners, who's been here for well over a year on this channel and on my channel, he told me, and I know some people laughed at him, but I think it's great. He said he called, or no, it was Lemansky. Lemansky and Hawkeye Howard are both great, right? And they're both on your channel at times, Mark. But Lemansky said that he actually called the University of Iowa and told them, left a message for Gary, which I'm sure won't get back to Barta, but basically that you need to do what's best for the program and relieve Brian. You can laugh at it and say it doesn't make a difference. I think that's a I really believe that's a noble thing to do. If you're a Hawkeye fan who really believes that Brian needs to be let go, a noble thing to do instead of just writing on message boards and on Twitter about it, to actually make an attempt to plead with the university to make this happen, even though that in itself won't do anything. Now, there is a petition. Have you seen this petition? I saw that, is it the Outkick did an article on this petition on change.org, and it's been circulating for over a year now, but it's picking up steam again. It's got like 7,000 signatures to fire Brian Ferentz. So now again, is that petition going to do anything? Is Gary Barta really going to care how many fans sign it? Well, no, but man, that's a substantial amount of people. Imagine if all those signatures were season ticket holders, or just, butts and seats. I mean, imagine 7,000 less people at Kinnick each and every game. That would be noticeable.
Or if that grew from 7,000 to 70,000.
Right. Yeah. And boy, I tell you, it's only gotten worse. And Mark, I predicted heading into this past week, I predicted an Illinois win, 14-9. That's really the first game this year. I hate to say that. It's the first game that I really felt like I read well. Like, to me, it was just, I just didn't see any way that there was a big margin there for either team. And I didn't see Iowa being able to do much offensively. That's exactly what happened.